One of
Yeah.
the things that we've found out in our company over the years, and we're going on our 18th year of being in business, is that the human beings that thrive at sales gravy are people who can take a 2x4 to the forehead, hit as hard as you can, not get knocked down, and then they just shake it off and they get right back up again. And the people
Yeah.
who can't do that, they will not survive our culture.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I've read all your books, and I just think you always resonated with us because like the first book I wrote was Fanatical Prospecting, and the reason our companies do work together is because of the way you frame it up and the way the systems and processes that you preach. Frankly the way we were taught, and there are no shortcuts in staffing. There is no secret sauce. There is no cool software that no one else has. All you have is your word and your work ethic.
Welcome back to another episode of the Sales Gravy Podcast. On this episode, I have Andy Matheou, who is with RHM. You're going to learn a little bit more about Andy as we go forward. It's an amazing company, amazing story. And I've been waiting for a long time to get Andy in here because he's like my brother from another mother. Like he's got this sales genius that I want to tap into and pull out. We're going to be talking about sales, a lot about leadership and some of the frustrations that leaders are facing today. Now, before we get started, I want you to go to Amazon and I want you to go check out my brand new book, The AI Edge. If you're watching this, I'm holding the book up. If you're listening to it, just go to Amazon, pull your car over, go to Amazon, get The AI Edge. This is not a tech book. It's a sales book. It is the hottest book in sales right now. I never expected it to sell this many copies so fast. But this book, top to bottom, from prospecting all the way to negotiating and closing and dealing with objections, gives you all of the ways that you can leverage AI in your normal sales motions to gain more time, to sell more, to win more, to earn more. Go pick up the AI Edge right now on Amazon. Andy, welcome to the Sales Gravy Podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So let's just start off with a little bit of history of you, because you are like your sales personified. When you hang out with you, there's this energy and drive that you have around selling. And I'm curious about like just a little bit about your history, where you came from, how did you end up where you are, and then I want to talk a little bit from there about RHM and this amazing trajectory you've been on there.
Yeah, I mean, probably a similar story to a lot of people, but didn't grow up with much. My grandmother was an entrepreneur, had a couple convenience stores, and just regular high school, college, so on and so forth. Graduated with a history degree. Did a little HR internship. Still, when I was like 25, didn't know what I wanted to do. I got a call from someone one day that saw some HR and some business-to-business sales that I had done, and they introduced me to recruiting. So after about 6 months, I realized I was pretty good at it, and I started being the first one there, the last one to leave. Came in on weekends. Got into sales. They promote you from recruiter into sales like we do today. It was a large organization that had a great training program, and did well in sales for a couple of years. And then after that, they moved me into leadership, and the rest is history.
So what is this about the getting in early and staying late that that a lot of people don't seem to get? Like I hear you say that. I feel like that is a reflection of me when I first started with my career. I would get there before anybody was there. I'd be the last one to leave. I would be the senior vice president of sales and marketing, be walking to their car, and I'd be walking out with them on the door. I mean, I was there all the time. A lot of people don't have that drive, and it's unique. Why don't we see this as much anymore? And where did that come from in you?
I think for me, I always thought I was supposed to do something that was going to be successful. I just didn't know in what. And when I realized I was good at the staffing industry, like anyone else, like it's like kids in sports today. Like if you're good at baseball when you're 6, you like it more, you play more. And I think for me, when I realized I was pretty good at it, I just went deeper into it. I said, I'm going to be the best at this. Where does it come from? My mom used to get up at 4 a.m, go to work. She'd get home at 4 p.m. My grandmother would get the crack of dawn, go to her convenience store, would get back at 6:37. So they're both working 12-hour days. And I just thought to myself, all the sacrifices they made for me, if I don't pay them back with worth working just as hard as them, what was the reason they did it all for? So that was kind of like that would be what my internal spirit was like, I just couldn't let what they did go to waste. But then also I just, as I got older, I wanted to prove, I had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to prove everyone I was good. So then when I started seeing sales numbers come out and they did the stack rankings, and I just got addicted to, I wanted my name on top of the list. So my proudest moment, I worked at a $6 billion company, was they had 3,200 salespeople. And I'll never forget, one week it came out and I was number one out of 3,250. And I was like, okay, like I finally did it. So then that's where I wanted to get into leadership. So
I love that. So are you that competitive in the rest of your life? Or like, I don't know about like my family, like we play full contact Trivial Pursuit. Like we're the most competitive family ever. we will literally kill each other, even though we're related, to win a game.
It's the same thing with me and my kids. My daughter's 9, we're all 4 of us. My wife is almost as competitive as me, probably not quite, but right there. So yeah, it definitely, yeah, she's not the one that's like, oh, Andy, you're so, no, she's definitely, she's trying to beat me at every board game for sure. That's for sure. So I'm with you.
What was it about staffing and selling staffing that really connected with you? Like why were you good at that particular, or this particular type of industry?
You know, I tried selling cell phones when they first came out, business to business, before I got into staffing. I think I really believe I'm just better at selling myself. Obviously, staffing and RHM, it's a service. And I would rather go out and explain what makes us different and deliver on what I say I'm going to do than I would selling a product that may or may not be right for, or a software or something like that. And for me personally, I grew up, like I said, convenience stores, some restaurants, stuff like that, where we were very service oriented. So for me, if I get them the right placement and I have a great service follow up, so on and so forth, I just think it works for me personally. So I wasn't the product guy or the software guy. I'm more the service guy.
But staffing is freaking hard. Like it is so hard.
It's a grind.
It's a grind. It's also
grind of the grinds.
It is. Like, I mean, so why pick an industry where it's hard? Like of all our clients, and we think about all the different things that people sell. Staffing is right on top of my list with advertising, as these are intangibles. You're selling an idea, a solution, a dream, an insight. You are working with people in these organizations that are cynical. They've seen every promise from every staffing company that's ever been made, and they've been heartbroken. They've been let down. They've had issues with every part of their business because of staffing issues. It's like, I mean, when you say grind, it is the grind of grinds.
It's the grind of the grind. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard. It's not the most glamorous industry. I have friends who work for these big companies and they sell this cool stuff. And I liked it and I was drawn to it. And I think the people I picked to be on our team, they want to work hard. And I just think for us, I try to, it's just not by accident. The people on our leadership team, the people we hired to entry level that we move into the sales role as they develop, we're looking for people who are willing to sacrifice, work hard, and grind it out. And to be honest with you, people on our team can go work anywhere after working here 2 to 5 years, but those same people who have a nice, easy, cushy job can't ever come work for us. And I'm proud of that. So
I like that.
It's a grind, but people who work here will have jobs at a high level till they're ready to retire, where I can't say that for every other industry. So bring the grind on.
I love it. One of the things that we've found out in our company over the years, and we're going on our 18th year of being in business, is that the human beings that thrive at Sales Gravy are people who can take a 2x4 to the forehead, hit as hard as you can, get knocked down, and then they just shake it off and they get right back up again. And the people who can't do that, they will not survive our culture.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I've read all your books, and I just think you always resonated with us because, like, the first book I wrote was Fanatical Prospecting, and the reason our companies do work together is because of the way you frame it up and the way the systems and processes that you preach. It's frankly the way we were taught, and there are no shortcuts in staffing. There is no secret sauce. There is no cool software that no one else has. All you have is your word and your work ethic. And that's just, unfortunately, it's probably lost with a lot of different companies or industries, but not with ours. So
Make a great t-shirt, my word and my work ethic. That's what you can trust. I love that.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So you said a couple of times that you were successful and you wanted to get into leadership. What drove you to want to move from individual contributor into leadership? And let me couch that question with a statement of fact. The staffing industry is a grind. It is very, very, very hard, but you can make a lot of money. Like you can, I mean, some of the highest paid sales professionals in industry across the board are in staffing.
100%.
So,
and at a young age, I mean, we have 25-year-olds making $500,000 a year.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it's insane. But you got to have your word and your work ethic to get there. I love what you said. There's no easy button, no shortcut, no silver bullet. You got to do the work. You got to follow the process.
I wish there was, Jeb. I wish there was. I've tried 100 times, and every time I'm over 100. So now I'm just the work ethic guy. That's all we're gonna do.
So why make the leap from individual contributor where you can make so much money into a leadership role where now you're responsible for all these people and all the problems that come with them?
Yeah, I think it kind of happened by accident. I talked about my family. I don't mean to go down that route. It's like a typical story, but I think when they sacrificed for me, I think in leadership, what I learned is you've got to be able to sacrifice for other people. And I think the reason I wanted to do it was as I was coming up the ranks and I was like I said, one of the top people in the company, I would help people and I give them ideas and angles to take and different techniques. And when it would work, the look on their face and how thankful they were. Now, look, it's the 80-20 rule. 20% of the people I help actually said thank you and really appreciated it, and 80% maybe didn't. But the 20% that showed gratitude and really were thankful for what I did was probably the best feeling I've ever had in my life, until obviously I had a family. But as a someone in they got in leadership in my 20s, like it was the best feeling I ever had. And I wanted that dopamine rush, if you will, right? That feeling of like I'm impacting people, and I just can't replace it. So it got addicting, and then I moved into a director role, before the age of 30, and I've just been in leadership ever since.
There's a lot of salespeople though that might be listening to this, and I ran into this. So when I was in the big corporate world, we would promote good salespeople who would then proceed to blow up a sales team. And we ran into this over and over again.
Yep.
And I was in my 30s when I was promoting people into these roles. And one of the things that occurred to me early on was that a lot of people didn't have what you had. I got into leadership for the same way or the same reason. I just dug, like when the light bulb came on and I was coaching somebody, like that was the greatest feeling ever. And when I moved into leadership, I moved from a role where I was making, mid six figures selling.
Made less money, right?
I made less money as a leader than I did as an individual contributor. And I remember sitting down with our leadership team, and they were saying that. They were like, look, you're going to take a step backwards. But I did it because I loved lifting people up. Like I loved the feeling of helping them. But when I had leaders that I promoted, good salespeople, and they failed, they never got that. Like they never understood that as soon as you became a leader, you had to put the needs of the people that you were leading ahead of your own, and your ego had to get put away. And that becomes a problem. So if you're talking to the salespeople in the audience who may be thinking to themselves, I want to be like you, or I want to make that leap, can you walk us through the conversations that you have with your young leaders before you promote them around what the role entails and the changes they have to make in their mindset and in their heart before they are able to be an effective leader?
Typically, obviously you want your top producers in leadership roles. So for every 10 top producers, 2 to 3 of them end up in a leadership role. And the differentiator is when you see them like promoting people into the next role. So we hire entry-level recruiters, and those salespeople that are typically creating a legacy for themselves, promoting people into the job they're in or splitting their territories and giving them opportunity, they're few and far between. And typically you just see it in someone that they're okay putting someone else in front of themselves. Most people don't want to do that. The innate thing is yourself, your survival mode. They might not get gratification out of it. They might think it's taken away from their weekly check. I just think you get more out of life and more out of your career by helping other people. But I think what the question comes down to, do you see them spend their time impacting people, or is the extra time they have doing things for themselves? And that's kind of like that's kind of what separates the leaders from the non-leaders.
Yeah, it really is that selfless looking at the world through the eyes of the people that you lead. And I've always believed that for a sales leader, your mindset should be, I get paid for what they do, not what I do.
Yep.
And even though we know to be true that the sales leader is often the pivot point for a sales team, if you've got a great sales leader, you'll typically have a really good sales team. And it's no different than if we look at the NFL, for example. If you've got a really good coach, you're typically going to have a good team. Now, star players matter. You need to have top performers on your team, but good coaches are able to get things out of people that bad coaches cannot. So for me, it is looking at a person who says, I understand that what they're accomplishing, I'm doing it through them. And if anything that I do that gets in the way of them achieving those goals is detrimental to me. And the leaders that I see that fail don't get that. Like, they're doing a lot of, I call it chicken shit stuff, but they're doing a lot of stuff to their people that impedes their people from actually doing the job of selling. And they never get that. And part of that is because of their ego. They have to feed their ego so much that they can never put it away and just be happy with people succeeding. And one of the great examples of this, I thought, is I was watching the finals for the Olympics for basketball, and the men's team won. And it was a great game. It was just fantastic. All the players stood on the podium and got the medals, and the announcers were saying the coaches don't get medals. And if you think about that, like, what a great analogy for being a sales leader. Your salespeople are earning the money, the spiffs, the trips. You don't get a medal. But those coaches were just as proud. They were standing there, and that coaching team for the men's basketball team was decidedly the difference between winning and potentially losing to a really good French team that, had the American team not been coached well, they could have made individual mistakes that could have lost the gold medal.
What's interesting is we actually had a meeting last week, and we had our best developers in the meeting, and there's 10 of them. And if you look at our sales team right now, that's close to 100 salespeople. Out of those 10 people, if you look at the root of who promoted who, there's a legacy goes down the line. Just like the coach you're talking about, like a Steve Kerr, who coached or played for Phil Jackson and played for Popovich, and it's like a lineage. Like 60% of our salespeople just come from these 10 people originally. If you do like that, so there's definitely something in growing a company where you have to have people that are willing to multiply themselves and sacrifice for other people. And there's no better gift, if someone's out there listening to this that's deciding between sales and leadership, than sitting in a room and you look around and you see all the people you impacted their lives and who they impacted and their families, and you just got that out of the leadership. So I chose at a young age, like, I want to be that person who impacts people. So
love it. So let's take a step back and talk a little bit about RHM. You have a phenomenal story. You started off with you, basically, and a couple of other people, and now you've 275 people in your company. Can you just take us through the story of how you and your team were able to build what you've built? It's incredible, and I wish people could. I just wish people could experience your team. We'll talk a little bit about what it's like to be around your people, but I want to hear the story from the beginning and how you end up here.
Great. I was actually, so I started for someone else, the Chicago market for another company. And my partner, Matheou, who's phenomenal, great partner, is like my work wife, I call him, because, obviously we talk 3 times a day, and he does more of the corporate and strategy, and a lot of the stuff that we do and decisions we make have his fingerprints all over it. So he owned a search firm, and he reached out to another search firm because he started getting companies that were asking him to do staffing, and he really didn't know what it was. So he reached out to the search firm, and they submitted like, I don't know, 5-10 people, wasn't the right fit. And then finally, this recruiter had been talking to me for a decade, said, you've always said you wanted something like this. I think I got it for you. Just go meet this guy. We met at Harry Carey's restaurant in early 2015, and we hit it off right away. We're completely different people. He's an accounting degree, very strategic, analytical. I'm more of the, send me a couple of people that I trust, and it's a battle against 100 people and I'm going to win. Like that. That's like my mentality, right? So, but our work marriage is we complement each other perfectly. So my job was to obviously build the recruiting and the sales team, and grow top line sales. So to your point, I started the company with driving an hour and a half from Chicago to Milwaukee because I was in a non-compete, non-solicit. And the company started in July of 2015 with me doing that. When that ended in early 2017, I was back in Chicago where I'm from, and we start just hiring a lot, developing a lot. And the way I built the team was what I did, what we've been talking about the last the half hour has been, I had to multiply myself and we were going to grow. We had, when we started Chicago in January of 17, I think we had like 10 employees. We're now almost at, it's been now at 7.5 years. We're almost at 300 employees. We did in 2016, I think we did about $3 million of sales. We're going to do like 135 million this year. And most staffing companies are down this year. We're up 20% year over year. And people always ask me, I have people ask me to go to lunch all the time. We'll go to lunch. They're like, I'm going to buy you lunch. I need some advice. And I don't sugarcoat it. I tell them the same thing I told you earlier. I don't need special sauce. We prepare every day, sincerely. We make a lot of calls. We write a lot of letters. We send a lot of example resumes, how good we are. We put our money where our mouth is. Every good conversation or meeting, we write a thank you card. We stop by. We take people to lunch. We do anything to build a relationship and tell them all about RHM. But I will not lie to the person who takes me to lunch. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of grind. And the people who take me to lunch, they always want a magic pill. They want some advice that makes the job easier. Like we said earlier, there is no antidote. The antidote is you need to hustle if you want to be successful. You get out of it what you put into it, and that's just kind of like what I would say. How I'd explain RHM. If you come work at RHM, or you come watch our company for a week, you're gonna look at each other and be like, all right, so those guys just outwork everybody, and that's 100% the company that me and my partner Matheou wanted to have. So
I love it. That's been, it's so funny you said that, because it's been my mantra since I was in my early 20s, and I've always said this to people: I'm not the smartest human being on the earth, because I'm not, and I'm not the best salesperson on the earth, because I'm not. I'm certainly not the best. I'm all right, but I'm not the best entrepreneur. I'm not the tallest, fastest, strongest. But no, it doesn't make a difference how much better you are, how much more talented you are than me. You will never out hustle me ever. I will outwork you, and I will do it to a point where you will give up, because you cannot have the discipline to wake up every day. And I've always felt that way. And what you're saying is, your RHM, the culture is, we're just going to outgrind you until you give up. We're going to make our competitors cry because we're willing to do what it takes to get in the door.
Mm-hmm. I mean, every market we go to, we end up being the top company in that market's number one competitor. It's probably one of the things I'm most proud of in terms of the results. People want to make money. They want a big sales number, a margin number. My number one thing is, wherever we put an office, it's us versus the other company. And that means something. It means we're taking market share, and it means that our service is so good, they have to give us a chance. And that's what I'm proud of,
I think that there's something, and I keep saying this, especially in the age of AI, that if you phone it in, if you let your AI do it for you, people don't respect you. I think that and I've always noticed this in sales, is that there is a huge amount of respect that you get, even if someone turns you away 100 times, that you keep showing up. that you're willing to do the hard work, that you're willing to give them your word, show up early, stay late, get it done. And eventually that begins to win the day because the people that you're selling to start to believe in you too. Like they believe that your company is willing to work this hard. You care about me. And those are the people that I want to do business with.
Yeah. And my partner always says the next job order is not promised to anyone. So, for us, it's like, if you have the people and you have the talent and you're willing to work and provide the best service in our industry, they're going to give you a chance. And I just think that that's probably what we've mastered is, just give us a chance. There's that famous movie. So you're telling me there's a chance, right?
That's right.
Was it Dumb and Dumber maybe? So, but no, and that's kind of our mentality is we're going to do whatever we can to get that chance. But when we do, like you said in the beginning, when you talked about our industry, when we do get our chance, nine times out of 10, we deliver on what we promised. And in a service different than a product, you got to come through on what you say you're going to do. You're done.
I remember the first time that I met you and I met your team. It was in Chicago. I flew in from some other event. It was at night. I was going to spend some time with your team the next day. And I walk into a restaurant and you and your leaders, and you've got this young group of like badass leaders that you've surrounded yourself with. Y'all are sitting at a table. You're having a little drinks and you're having some good food. And I walk in and I sit down, and it was like, the best way I can describe it is I instantly felt like I was part of your group. And and that's a hard thing to do. Like it was a level of humility and authenticity and just genuinely nice people, but also massive talent. And that's a really hard thing to put together because a lot of times you get massive talent, you get massive arrogance attached to it. But your team's not like that. And then I was with y'all, and I want to talk a little bit about this because I've been living on this high for the last 9 months. But we had dinner in Nashville at an event there, and it was the same feeling. So it was even better then. It was like they were just a group of people that they love each other and they're working together. And then you get a guy like me, I walk through the door and sit down with them, and they just treated me like I was one of them. How do you build a culture like that? Because it's unique. It's different. It's one of the reasons why I really do love your people. I like your team. I like you. I like what you've built. But how do you, as a leader, create and sustain something like that where your people don't get too far over their skis and their belief about themselves? Like they're always willing to be humble and learn. Like I said at that dinner, I barely ate because they spent the entire time asking me questions about everything. Like it was nuts. And they could have all said, "Hey, we already know everything. This is good. We don't need you." How do you do that?
I think, like, first and foremost, I have the best team. I don't always tell them that, which kind of gets to the answer to your question is they are great people. I hire off trust. I try to figure out if I'm gonna put someone in a leadership role, especially at the level of the people you're with, they're running the company. They're managing all the people with me. And I have to trust them first and foremost. I think the second thing is my strategy when I manage people, when I lead them, is I want to be 100% just myself with those people. If I can't be myself and I can't be direct with them and they can't be themselves with me, you're not going to have a good relationship. People are always going to wonder where they stand with you. You lose trust. That's when you lose your leaders. I think the one thing when they're doing really good, like coming out of the pandemic in 2021, I mean, the staffing industry it was a black swan event. It was companies were calling us saying, could you do 100% markup? But could you give us your people? People were doing really well. They were getting great bonus checks. We do a incentive stock program, phantom stock program. They were getting stock. And the thing with me is, to me, I have a mentality of enough is never enough. So with them, I try to instill that in them where they're never going to, get too cocky. They're never going to get too arrogant. They're never going to get over their skis. They're always going to be, we're going to reward them. They're the top paid in the industry. They get a lot of recognition, so on and so forth. However, we're never too good to work with our people. We're never too good to work late, stay late, and you got to stay right in the middle because I never want those guys that work for me on our team, the leaders, to be fearful. I don't want to be, entitled and comfortable. I always try to maintain keeping them right in the middle. And I think that's like my special sauce. But I have a great team. They work hard, and this company would be nowhere without my leadership team.
Love it.
Bottom line, without them, we're nothing. And I'm just the guy talking, and they're the ones that, that are really making it happen. So
I love it. And it's reflective in who they are. Even after we spent some time together with your team in Nashville, my phone rang for like the next 3 weeks, and it would be one of your leaders on the phone with their team going, "Hey, Jeb, we ran into a problem. We got a question about it." Nobody ever does that. I give my phone number out to thousands and thousands of people every single year. Nobody calls me. Your team, they took me up on it. Like I said, you call me.
Good. No, there's no doubt. They're thirsty to be good. I 100%. That does not surprise me whatsoever.
I mean, I can tell you like all the airports I was sitting in when I'd be having a conversation with the folks on your team. It was great. Let's switch to a subject that I want to dive into a little bit more, and that is cold calling. Y'all are fanatical prospectors. It is a book that you've adopted and a process you've adopted.
Yep.
And we spent some time with your team in Nashville. I keep alluding to this, but it was a killer day. So y'all had we got everybody together. We did some workshop. And then we had this full ballroom of over 100 people in the ballroom, and we started running prospecting blocks, list, pen, phone. And I remember we got started. Your leaders were kind of in there. They were hanging out. The people were making calls, and then we stopped. We did a count. We did another block, and it got louder and louder and louder. And pretty soon, like you got people that are standing up at the table. A couple of times, people are standing on the table, and they're getting past objections and setting appointments. It was so amazing. Like it was incredible, the energy, and they set a ton of appointments. They surprised themselves in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And, cold calling in a lot of sectors has got, it's got a bad reputation. Why would you ever cold call? Why would you pick up the phone? Nobody answers the phone. And there were a lot of people answering the phone that day. We got through a lot of doors.
We did.
And one of the things that happened to your team recently is that you guys sold a massive account. I think y'all would call it an out of reach account. Like this is one of those big deals. It was a food processing company, about 40,000 people, and Tessa and Elijah were the ones that spearheaded this. But one of the parts of the story that I think is phenomenal, and I want to talk a little bit about more because people don't get this. And I was just on a call with a group that didn't understand this. They said, "Well, the cold calling doesn't work." One of the things that about the story is that there was a massive amount of cold calling that was used to identify who are the people we're supposed to be selling to.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I think totally gets missed in this. Like we think I pick up the phone and talk to people and I didn't sell something or I didn't get an appointment, I failed, versus I pick up the phone and I did the groundwork. I had a conversation with someone and they gave me a little bit of insight about how decisions are made here. Or they open the door that this person I should be talking to over here. How important is that groundwork, whether it would be cold calling by phone or cold calling in person, like you can show up in people's businesses, for understanding the lay of the land and these massive accounts where even if you went to a data tool or you went to LinkedIn and you tried to build the map of the stakeholders based on role, that's not always how decisions are made inside these organizations or who has the political juice or the ability to drive the process. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a 20 location Fortune 100 company nationally. We don't get into those every day. Tessa, Graperis, Elijah, they did a phenomenal job. And the first thing we do when attack an account like that is we just build out an org chart and we label the people in 3 buckets. It's our internal acronyms. We have information gatherer managers. We have influencers, like people who influence decision. We have decision makers. So the information gathering meetings are and phone calls and cold calling is calling those people that are either subject matter experts, leads, supervisor of small teams, but they're the ones who they'll tell you what projects are coming in, how hiring. You'd ask them quick questions. They're more willing to talk to you. We cold call on influencers, the people that will champion you. And that just means someone who's going to influence the buying decision to the decision maker. And we build relationships with those people and call those people. Last, we get to the decision makers. By that point, we know exactly what's going on, what the good things and bad things are going on with their current provider. We know what the angles are. We have people that have our back. And that took us months to get into that account. But in the end of the day, the amount of prospecting, call sheet making, outbound calls to get that account done was probably over 1,000 calls, 40 letters, every phone conversation that we got some information. We teach them to write a thank you card, a quick little, thank you very much for your time over the phone. We know you're really busy. Anything to just make friends and build relationships, to do something a little different. And then they did a great job on the meetings, and eventually, we got an opportunity.
1,000. Think about that. So think about how many salespeople, this is the person having lunch with you looking for the easy button. They're looking for the one and done. How many salespeople make one phone call and they get told no and they never call again? They make one touch. And I love the thank you notes. And I think I was telling your group this. I just kept a stack of pre-stamped thank you notes sitting on the front seat of my car back in my days when I was in the field like Tess and Elijah. And I walked out of a place or I got off a phone call with someone, I wrote a thank you note and dropped it in the mail, because those little things matter in terms of creating that familiarity.
Especially in a service like ours.
Yeah.
Because they think, and we want them to know it's hard to differentiate yourself in what we do. So our example is, if we're sending you great resumes and great talent, we're promising you that later on. We want you to know we have it. And we're going to do these little things. Imagine how hard we're going to work for you when we actually have your business. Yeah. That's kind of what the reasoning for that is. And we were able to do that with this large organization.
1,000 calls. So Chris Bott, I was talking to you this morning. I'm not going to name your company, but if you're listening to this, because you told me you are, and yet your team listening to this, this is what we were talking about. Like getting out, you've identified the accounts, you've mapped out the stakeholders, and then you've got to go out and have lots of conversations with them. And that means you've got to pick up the phone and have synchronous conversations, because you're not going to be able to accomplish this any other way. They're not going to call you. They're not thinking about you. And, this win for your team was massive and awesome. And part of it is like, it's kind of like, the 4-minute mile. When the 4-minute mile was broken, now everybody can do it. Like your team, broke in and knocked down this massive account.
We're definitely railing it around it. And it's a good example for everyone to your point, for sure.
So when you think about yourself as a leader, okay, so let's just, back into this, and you think about bringing on new salespeople onto your team.
Yep.
So you've sold them the dream. RHM is a great place. And by the way, if you're looking for a job, it's a great place, or looking for a career. As a leader, what are your biggest frustrations with brand new salespeople when they join your team, that just causes you to sit back and as a leader and go, I just don't understand why this isn't connecting?
Yeah, so we hire entry level, but when we promote them, it's usually at the 1 year mark, and we put them in sales. And I think they think it's gonna be easier than it is, probably because the people that are selling have been doing it, and they think they're gonna be able to just catch on just like they are. Unfortunately, it's really hard, and someday I wish I could just put what I know in their brain and be like, it's gonna be okay. Just follow the process. Here's exactly what to do, because we do have a very specific process. We've adopted a lot of your teachings into it as well. We're very diligent with that, but the instant gratification they want is probably not going to happen. So my biggest frustration is, if they could just work as hard as they can, do the best they can, but they're, just prepare sincerely, make the calls we tell them to make, so on and so forth, good things are going to happen. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen in a few weeks. Right. And I think just like a diet, right? You're not going to just like eat good for a couple of days and you're going to lose some weight. So that's my biggest frustration with them is like their lack of patience and just trusting the process.
I love what you said about trusting the process, and let's make sure we put an explanation point on this. Yep. Sales is a process, and RHM is a process-driven organization. You've mapped everything out. Yep. And you know how it works. Like, if you do these things, it's going to work. Most salespeople are working for organizations, not all salespeople, but most salespeople are working for organizations where there's been a mapped out process. If you follow the process, you'll be successful. Yep. If you haven't worked for those companies, go read Fanatical Prospecting, Sales EQ, Objections Inc., Virtual Selling, the AI Edge. I'll give you the process. Follow that process. You'll be successful. But the thing that I think I see a lot of salespeople lacking is they have lacked faith in the process. Like, they don't believe it. I believe in my heart. Like, I believe that if I lost everything tomorrow and you took me an airplane and dropped me in some city someplace and said, go make it, that I'd make it because I have such faith in the process, like 1,000 calls inside an organization after you map the stakeholder group. And then I'm going to work my way up that funnel until I've got an insight message to tell the DMs so I can convert them into a meeting. I can convert them into a sales. And then I'm going to produce and I'm going to stand by my word. You recognize that works and it works consistently over time. So it is that you've got to have faith in the process. That for me gives me such peace of mind. Like I know exactly how it's going to work.
And for sales managers that are listening to this and sales leaders, the process and what's mapped out from your organization is made for the 80% that are probably, maybe call it average to above average talent. But if you follow the process, those people are making $250,000 on all the incentive trips. It's not made for the 20% who just are like super aggressive and natural at this. And I hear too many sales managers all the time go, well, if I just had Johnny, like that leader does, it's like, well, guess what? You don't. And we don't expect you to. What we teach you is to get these 80% we call it to our incentive trip. But that incentive trip means they're making X amount of dollars and they're loving the company and that's their job. So that to me is where the magic says is how do you teach the 80%
exactly
of the population?
And it's the same thing with sales training. We don't come into sales trainings to try to teach the savants how to be better savants.
Exactly.
Right there. When leaders go, well, these guys aren't doing what you say. I ask, like, what are their sales numbers? They're the best people in the company. I go, well, leave them alone because they figured something out that I don't know. Yeah. That's fine. I'm here for the people in the middle. Yep. That if we make them incrementally better, you're going to crush your number because if you get the 80% doing better and the savants keep doing their job, you're rolling. And you're exactly right. And I think that's where it's a really good insight from you is we have to be very careful that we don't look at top performers who just have something that no one can figure out.
You just get it.
And everything we've got baked around that. And I had one of my clients said, we just need more of those. I said, good luck. If you can, if you can get an army of those, like figure out the formula and quit running your company and sell that formula because it doesn't exist. You're never going to get that. So as a leader, you got to get into the trenches and you've got to coach and you've got to help people believe in the process and believe in themselves along the way.
Yep, absolutely.
So before we take off, this is a great conversation. I want you to tell people why they should consider. We know that it's a grind. We know that it's hard work. We know that there's no easy button. We know staffing is really hard. We also know that you can make a lot of money, and you can work on a really cool team.
These kids, they don't say bank anymore, Jeb. They call them stacks.
Okay, stats. Yes. You can make Venmo, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So tell us why, this is your opportunity to talk to the audience. Why should people who may be looking at making a career move consider RHM? And then where would they go to have a conversation with your team about potentially coming to work for you?
Yeah, I think for us, I don't think there's any better organization if you're coming right out of school that's going to teach you the X's and O's of sales, but not just sales. It's the discipline, the sacrifice, the preparation, the mindset that it takes to be really successful. And I always tell people this, you can work at RHM 2 years and go get a good job where you're the best talents. I get so many messages. Every week I get one from a former employee, from my past, that is like, God, the habits, the winning habits we were taught. I didn't realize what you were trying to teach me at the time. But now when I go to these different companies, wherever I work, I always have the best systems and processes. And it's because of what you guys, drove with me. We get that all the time. So if I'm an entry-level person and I want to learn sales and sales management, the greatest thing about what we do is you're touching human resources. You're learning about workers' comp, you're learning about sales, you're learning about recruiting, because even if you're not in staffing, you have to recruit people for your team, whether you're a school teacher or, a customer service rep. You learn every part of running a business, everything. And I don't think there's a better job out of school. Why RHM specifically? Well, not only do you do all those things, but I just think we have a great group of people. Our leadership turnover is almost non-existent. Our sales turnover is very low once you get into sales. And I just think It's the culture we provide, where if you want to be the best of the best, then you come work at RHM. If you don't want to work hard and you don't want to be the best of the best, go get a job, because this is a career. I usually use different companies in that joke, but I thought I'd save it for the pod, Jeb.
And where do people go to learn more about the careers at RHM?
Yeah, I think it's just www.rhmstaffing.net. You can go there and then you can apply there. And obviously we have LinkedIn, and we're all over LinkedIn. Cool. With postings and stuff like that. So beautiful.
All right. Andy Matheou, RHM Staffing. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a long time. I've been looking forward to this conversation. It
was an honor. Thanks for everything you've done for our organization. So thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Listen, go to Amazon, go pick up the AI Edge. You're going to love this book. It is the handbook that you need in sales to start deploying AI to sell more, win more, earn more. I wrote it with my good friend, Anthony Anarino. It is the hottest book in sales. Go to Amazon right now, the AI Edge. We'll see you next time on the Sales Gravy Podcast. Hey, I'm doing a happy dance because you watched this video. Make sure that you click like and subscribe so that you never miss one of our amazing sales training videos.